This podcast is brought to you by Poultry Network. If you're looking to reach decision makers across the UK poultry sector, Poultry Network offers a highly targeted platform to get your message in front of the right audience. Through our newsletter, website, podcasts and events, we connect with thousands of producers, integrators and industry professionals every week. To discuss advertising or sponsorship opportunities, contact Jake directly at jake@dmediagroup.com. That's DEE mediagroup.com.
Hello and welcome to the Poultry Network podcast. I'm Tom Woolman.
And I'm Tom Willings.
And this is the news at 10. I felt rather newsreadily there, announcing the return of the Poultry Network podcast, because we've had a couple of weeks off because it's been Easter. Yeah,
it's been Easter and it's been lambing season, hasn't it?
Oh yes,
You've been a busy fella.
My barn is full.
As they say.
It's about as full as it could be. So that's gone very well. Yeah, the kids have all enjoyed getting involved. Pretty much everything's gone to plan, actually.
What's your kind of ratio? Have you got ahead of 2 to 1 or?
So at the moment, I think ratio isn't the correct term, actually, Tom. If I could just correct you there, I think you're asking about the lambing percentage, aren't you?
There we go.
So at the moment, we're sitting at 200%, which is sort of where you want it. 2 lambs for every ewe. Albeit I've got a few that will be on the bottle, but that's fine. You know, the children will enjoy rearing them on the bottle just as long as I don't have to do it.
Could make life awkward a few months down the line, couldn't it?
Yes, it could. But I'll cross that bridge when I get to it.
Fantastic. Can I be the first to put my name down for a leg when the time does come? Of course. As long as you're not asking for some sort of mates rates discount. No freebies. No freebies expected. I'm sure we can, come up with some sort of deal. Right, come on. Let's talk about today's episode. Big news in the world of Salmonella. We've done a fair few episodes in recent weeks on the topic of Salmonella. So if you're listening and you've missed those, then please go back and check the history, as it were. Check the back catalogue. And it's something that is topical, isn't it, in both the broiler supply chains and the egg supply chains as well. So, the big news that's come out is that Elanco's AviPro Duo Salmonella vaccine has been approved for vaccination in lay, which it hasn't been before. Before this, it's only been approved for use in rear. So, this is good news, I suppose, for people that are producing eggs and want to make sure that their birds are protected right up until the end of production. And production has gone, hasn't it, from, you know better than me what the typical length of lay is for a laying hen, but it's been stretched by 20 or 30 weeks, hasn't it, in the past couple of years? It's been stretched considerably, but let's get an expert on the subject. So we are joined today by Dr. Josh Davison from Elanco, who's the veterinary technical consultant and brand manager. And let's hear from Josh all about it. Josh, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Yeah, no, good to have you. Good to have you with us. So we're talking about big news for salmonella protection in laying flocks. The introduction of the option for a booster dose of AviPro Duo. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, it is exciting. I think from an Elanco perspective, but also hopefully from the UK egg perspective as well. About really maximising human protection. We have to remember that's why we're doing this, and it's all about a maximum duration of immunity for longer lived birds.
So the vaccine itself, AviPro Duo, has been around for quite a while, hasn't it? And that
traditionally has been 3 doses in rear, hasn't it, which has given protection for most of the laying cycle.
Yeah, correct. So what we're talking about today is this 4th dose. It's the same product. It is AviPro Salmonella Duo, and you're right that previously the license for the vaccine was 3 doses when the birds were in rear before they start laying, and that gave you a duration of immunity that when the vaccine was first produced was sort of the usual laying life cycle of a bird. And as birds have incrementally started to live longer, genetics have improved, farming practices have improved, we've got to the point where the duration of the immunity of the vaccine hasn't kept up with the pace of the length of birds are living. So we now have the ability to vaccinate these birds at around 50 weeks of age with the vaccine to provide another up to 50 weeks of salmonella protection.
So how big has the gap been then from what we've been doing historically with Salmonella Duo, and how much of a gap have we had, an immunity gap then, in terms of the life cycle of the standard laying hen?
Well, I think I think the key thing here is to recognise that the salmonella control in the UK is very good, certainly when we compare ourselves internationally, and that the salmonella risk in eggs is very low. So I think we first have to sort of really get that point across. The AviPro Duo in rear, the duration of immunity went up to 68 weeks for the enteritidis part, and so it's really about that. As birds have been living longer than that, industry has been asking, we need longer duration of immunity, which is why we've come up with the 4th dose at 50 weeks.
And I guess we've had, maybe over the last 5 years, a very rapid progression, haven't we, in the length of the life cycle, both with the introduction of white birds, quite a fast escalation or acceleration to perhaps 10-12% market share of white from previously almost a standing start. Supply and demand challenges, so farmers, integrated businesses looking to take birds on for longer, or being encouraged to take birds on for longer just to maintain availability. Maybe that's a story of the last sort of 3 or 4 years as opposed to right now. And of course all of the economic benefits of taking birds for longer. But maybe 72 weeks as a standard depletion age for a brown bird of 15 years ago, 10 years ago even, moving into 76 weeks. The last 5 years, we're talking about 100 weeks for white as routine, if not longer, and brown birds, guys trying to get to 90 weeks. So it's been quite rapid change, I suppose, is my very convoluted point. How have you been able to respond? How long has it taken for the the sign-off processes, the checks and balances, in order to give you the approval to be able to make these kind of claims and to be able to use this in the lay period without a withdrawal? What's the process been for approval behind the scenes, Josh?
It's been lengthy, is the short answer. It's the vaccine is sold around the world. It's produced at our site in Cuxhaven in North Germany, and for good reason. We're talking about a live vaccine administered to birds that are then laying for eggs to go straight to consumers. That the regulatory hurdles to get that vaccine through are arduous and are lengthy. So it has been a very long process, but as I said, for good reason. And it's something that we're aware that the industry has asked for a long time, and for a long time we've been working on it. So it's great to be able to talk about it.
The Lion Code, British Egg Industry. Sorry, Josh. I was going to ask you just about the motive or the impetus. Is it, you talked about the industry programs, whether it's National Control Program or Lion Code and the slight gold plating of that. Are the Lion Code behind the introduction of this, or is this a commercial venture for Elanco? Is it really directed at UK market, or is this a global approval and an initiative? What's the outlook?
Yes, I mean the vaccine is sold globally, and that fourth dose is depending on individual countries' regulatory process. It is going ahead. The UK, because of the amazing work of the BEIC and the Lion Code to create this remarkable Salmonella success story. It is something that I think as a product is very helpful for contributing to that Lion Code strength and that industry reputation. And I think it is related to that point, but we have to remember that strength of that Lion Code and the BEIC is built upon a holistic Salmonella control. So, vaccination is a component of it. It's not the entirety of it. There's everything else that goes into that. So, I see this as an addition and a help to the Lion Code.
50 weeks. How did you come up with 50 weeks as the optimal time to give this vaccine in lay?
So the exact testing elements to get the product approved, that was dealt with. I didn't have oversight to that. The R&D process was very much well above my position at Elanco. So the actual ages and the duration it was tested out to, I don't have oversight. Is the short answer. I would like to be able to say, Tom, I've got a fantastic story to tell you about it, but it was built around the how you go about proving and testing that immunity within that vaccine space.
Because it's interesting, isn't it? We talk about vaccines giving immunity to X amount of weeks, but equally the immunity doesn't just drop off a cliff edge, does it, when we get to a certain stage? But there's got to be a process by which people say, right, the bird is sufficiently immune at this age, and past this age is insufficiently immune.
And I think we have to. There is always the problem of when you're dealing with vaccines and or veterinary medicines in general. We have to be black and white on a vaccine and instruction manual of X ages, and you have to stick to that. But we have to recognise that we're dealing with animals, large-scale agriculture, and immunity profiles that vary. But so the dates that we come up with, they're what we can really anchor to as and what we have to recommend and suggest based on the data that we have to back it up. So there is. Yeah, those dates are pretty set from a vaccine properties point of view.
And in terms of actual delivery on farms, I mean, if there are farmers listening to this thinking, what does this actually mean if I do this vaccine? How is it administered on farm?
So it's administered in the water, so the birds drink it as normal. It is a process that, in theory, it's a simple process, but there are some key steps to get right, and it's something we're very aware of. That, as I said, we're not doing this for chicken health; we're doing this for human health, and so there is a real importance there for getting it right. We've recently upgraded our website, which has got access to our protocol, which I've got here, and you can access that. Which is protocol is probably a little bit of a formal word. It's a how-to guide really of how to do it. And as a company, we are trying to roll out as much as possible on-farm training, train the trainer events. We recognise that this is something that we really want to help that it's done well for everyone's sake.
And can producers expect any sort of reaction from the birds when they put it in terms of 50 weeks? I'm sure people will be thinking, what I don't want is to be putting a vaccine in that's going to knock my production. I mean, what's your experience of that, or what can producers expect?
So the key thing is it's in the water, so there's no handling, there's no stress in that sense. There's 0-day egg withdrawals, so the eggs, there's no loss of production there, and as far as we're aware, there's no knock to the birds post vaccination. So it's hopefully that answers that.
And just out of interest, as someone that's not familiar with the vaccine programs for laying hens, what other things are birds getting vaccinated for in lay at the moment then? Because presumably IB would be something, would it?
Yeah, and I mean, there are certainly other vaccines that are given. I mean, that rearing period is as any rearer or vet will tell you, that rearing period is very busy and packed with vaccinations. And then in lay, I would say is a more nuanced a period that's probably up to the producer and the clinical vet. But it should be the 50 weeks should help with that.
Josh, do you see it being a producer decision as to whether or not they're going to give this fourth dose in lay, or do you think it's going to be a top-down, whether it's line code mandatory or a packer-led, retailer-led? How do you see the the future of the adoption of this fourth dose opportunity playing out?
So I personally see it very much as a conversation between a producer and their vet. This is a prescription product, and it should be a conversation with your clinical vet and a producer. I think that's key to get across. And as my latest dealings with the line code, it's certainly not mandatory, but I think for those who are contemplating taking birds to a longer laying cycle, to me it makes sense.
I know you're a technical guy rather than a commercial guy, but can you put some figures to the cost of actually giving this fourth dose?
So in terms of by some rough calculations, I think a dose in lay would be approximate to less than a single egg at the farm gate. So I think it's in terms of that investment. Obviously, any investment has to be ratified and has to be balanced. But I think for that bigger picture of human health, egg industry reputation,
It sounds like a very kind of grown-up decision to be taking. It's not as though it's a performance enhancement. It's an insurance policy against a very, very high risk in terms of the consequences, but very low risk if you look at the statistics in terms of the incident rate. To your earlier point, eggs are safe, and Salmonella incidence rates in the UK are the best in the world from all of the stats that we would see. And for me, my concern would be, as much as I think this is a tremendous step forward, because anything that gives eggs a better reputation with the consumer and inspires greater confidence, already high as it is a good thing. I just wonder how many farmers are out there thinking, I'm happy to put my hand in my pocket and pay for a mid-lay vaccine, because I think the vaccination of Salmonella is and has been the cornerstone of the success of Lion, but I wonder whether or not, frankly, there's a greater degree of complacency than there ought to be at farm level, because the vaccine exists in the first place. They don't see, many don't see that risk exists. I wonder what you'd say to that.
I see where you're coming from. I think in my opinion, farmers are very aware of Salmonella and the risk and the black cloud that does hang over, and it's marrying that, exactly as we've talked about, the fact that the UK enjoys this exceptional reputation for Salmonella control, but let's not forget where we came from. Those, and I wasn't working then, but though you hear stories of the 90s, 80s, 1990s of really bad times for UK egg, and that all the effort that went into the fact that we now enjoy this great status, in my opinion, that has taken a lot of work and will continue to require a lot of work to keep it to that high level, if that makes sense. It's a I wouldn't want to use the word complacency, because I think that gives the wrong impression. It's more everything that we can do, I think we should consider as from an egg industry point of view.
Yeah,
and I think even reflections on this podcast, we've talked about the topic of Salmonella several times, and I think you're right. People understand the context, don't they? That it is rarely seen, whether that's in broilers or whether that is in layers. But as you say, Josh, the consequences can be so severe, and the industry is proud of its reputation when it comes to Salmonella. But I think people are very keen to make sure that reputation is preserved. And I'd like to think that people would be proactive in terms of investing in their farm. Whether that's in vaccines, whether that's in other controls that you can put in place. I'm thinking of other stuff, water acidification and feed treatment and stuff like that. I've done in the past, of course, with breeders where you've got very expensive birds. But in my experience, farmers are usually willing to invest and protect their farm, because it can be a huge thing, a huge impact on people financially and reputationally and all sorts of things. So
there should, to my mind, there should be. I don't want to just stand in a soapbox here, but there's been debates in years gone by of what's the very best vaccination program in rear to make sure of the greatest longevity or the highest degree of protection specifically against Salmonella, and discussions around 3 live versus a combination of inactivated and live vaccines, and it never quite got to a point of there being a consensus, and there was always variations of view and opinion. All I would want as a passionate egg advocate is decisions about creating the safest product for consumers, so that those days of the 80s remain firmly consigned to the past. And this sounds like a fantastic development and another opportunity for a robust discussion behind closed doors to work out what is the right thing to do. If people are listening to this, Josh, and want to know more, what's the kind of call to action? What's the signpost? Who do they talk to? How do they find out more information about how to consider adopting it?
So, as I said, it's the key thing is it's a prescription product. You go chat to your clinical vet. As a company, we are very happy to engage in training and help and that conversation. But this is I firmly believe this is a decision and a discussion really for that producer-vet relationship, and that's I suppose a key message for me really.
Yeah, I'm going to throw insurance in there as well. I'd love there to be a concerted effort by kind of leaders in industry to embrace the fact that this is a way of diminishing risk on farm, and whereas many farms, many businesses will be insuring against the risk of contracting salmonella, here should be some mitigation that should be reflected in premiums, so that there should be a quid pro quo about using something like this. Safer product and lower risk should mean lower insurance costs, you could argue.
Great. Well, thanks for coming along today and talking to us, Josh, and wish you all the best going forward.
Thank you very much, guys. Nice to chat.
On reflection, listening to Josh there, I think there are some pretty big decisions to be taken in the administration in the industry, whether that is total industry or that's in individual supply chains. Listening to Josh, it sounds as though this really is a milestone moment in the protection against what has been the nemesis of the industry. You know, the UK eat relatively few eggs compared to our near neighbours, you know, comparable affluence and diet and food culture, etc. And I think some of that probably lies at the door of, you know, the legacy of Edwina Curry in the 80s and in a sense consumer confidence.
Do you think that still casts a shadow, do you? Because I know we're so conscious of it within the sector because of the impact that it had, but in terms of consumers, do you think consumers still feel that way?
Yeah, maybe you're absolutely right, and actually it is just a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy of doubt that because the industry remains so focused on it. So yeah, I'm not going to pretend to know that the consumer is actually still so sensitive to that because, you know, as you say, it was nearly 40 years ago. But anything that allows our assured production under the Lion Code, you know, which is the jewel in the crown, apple of the eye, however you want to describe it, in food safety protocols, frankly, globally. You know, I know in my days gone by of attending, global conferences, the attention given to our code of practice was very significant, and it has transformed the. I suppose the view of the industry and you know, people's relationship with the product. My point would be that if there is anything that we can do to further enhance that and further insure against the risk of a deterioration in consumer confidence in the future, then I think that's a discussion that we ought to be having. It's really obvious that there's going to be some anti-competitive concerns that ought to be mitigated, but surely we can have the conversation.
Yes, and Elanco might have been first to get here, but I wonder if there are other pharmaceutical companies which have got other products or other approvals waiting in the wings, because there's clearly been a need, and there's clearly been a gap in the market developing for a number of years. So it totally makes sense to have a vaccine, and I wonder as well about, really, if I was an egg packer, and maybe this is the sort of thing that I can pontificate on because I'm not involved in the sector and the exact commercial relationships, but I would have thought that there would be some people calling for to mandate this. You know, I'm not sure whether you were a packer or whether you were the BEIC, but there's some pressure in there to say, look, this is a way that we can protect our supply chain, that we can provide further assurance to our end consumers. Where's the conversation going to be had? And I'm sure it's going to be had both at a farm level with a vet, but I'm sure people at a higher level will also be talking about it, as you allude to. Yeah.
No, Elanco are going to be busy, aren't they, over the next few weeks, promoting the availability, for want of a better word, the success that they've had, and fantastic to have Josh with us, and really interesting to see just how the market as a whole responds to the availability of the product. So that's it for this week. Thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See you.